Hi, I'm Dr. Brian Cook from the University of Hawaii. I'm a professor in the College of Education, and today we're going to talk about evidence-based practices, which is a movement that comes out of medicine. And it started with medical doctors, wanting to know and find out what really works and to try to improve their practice and try to improve their ability to heal and improve the lives of their patients. And that movement has caught on in a lot of other fields and has now become a very important movement within a variety of different fields. And so that's what we'll be talking about for the next little bit. Before we start, I want to introduce what we call guided notes. And these are basically taken from the PowerPoint that I'll be talking from throughout this class. And it contains everything that's on the PowerPoints with some blanks. So the blanks there aren't too many blanks. And so for most of the information, it's already going to be there for you. But for certain key things, they're going to be blanks. And so by listening to what I'm saying and by looking at the PowerPoint, you can fill in those blanks and then have a complete set of notes that you can use to help you remember and understand what we've talked about. And so you should have a set of the guided notes now. It's titled Evidence-Based Practices. And as you go through, just fill in the blanks that are in the guided notes based on what's on the PowerPoint. Now we'll get started with the presentation. So before science was popular and before evidence-based practices was popular, knowledge still existed, certainly. And different societies and different fields made significant advances without scientific knowledge. And there's a number of ways that we come to know what is true and what is real in our lives. And really in our day-to-day lives, we really don't use science all that often. We use more traditional methods, primarily personal experience. We live our lives through trial and error, and humans are very, very good at doing that. We learn as we go, and that's how we figure most of the things out in our lives. We also use tradition, and so we pass things down from generation to generation. Really, trial and error, as much as that can serve us very well, we're not going to be able to figure out everything through trial and error. We just don't have enough time and experiences in our own life to figure everything out. And so we have different traditions that come down that pass on a traditional wisdom about how to approach life and what is true and what is real. And so that's another source. A third source is through expert opinion or others' opinion. And so we see this a lot of times on commercials, for example, when they hire a spokesperson. Sometimes they're celebrities who probably aren't really experts, but we have someone who we think, well, they should know. 4 out of 5 doctors recommend. That's expert opinion. And experts really do know probably a lot. And so through these different ways that don't necessarily involve science, we find out a lot about the way the world works and about what's real in our lives. Underlying all of these more traditional approaches to ways of knowing are personal experience. Whether it's our own experience, tradition is the cumulative experiences of a group or a culture, of ancestors perhaps. And so it's personal experience squared, personal experience going generations back is what makes tradition. And an expert opinion is really very often the personal experience of other people, of experts. There's some strengths to using personal experience to know things. This is basically how we come to know what's out there. Humans are kind of made to make sense of their sensory experiences, and this is how we interpret our world. We're very, very good at doing this, and in some ways science is just a very logical, systematic approach to doing this, but we explore our environment, we make sense of our environment. That's what we do, and we're pretty darn good at it. There's a certain relevance that comes with personally exploring and personally making sense out of your own environment, where it's very convincing. If we go through something and experience it, If we try something and it falls flat, we know that doesn't work for us. And it's going to be very, very hard to change our minds. Vice versa, if we do something and it works for us, we're going to be pretty convinced that this works. And so it's very convincing. What we see, what we hear, what we touch, it's very convincing to us. It's individualized to our lives, very relevant. However, there are some problems with using personal experience and other ways based on personal experience, such as tradition and expert opinion, to make up your mind about what really works and what's really out there in the world. And so we're going to go through a couple of exercises now to wrap our heads around these ideas. And so these come out of the field of psychology. And these will be a little fun, so we'll have some fun. The first activity is a video clip, and this is available from YouTube. It comes from a classic psych experiment done in 1999. And it has some directions on it, but what I want you to do is pay close attention. This is going to show us how much different we can be in our perceptions. And so what they'll ask you to do is count the number of times the people in white in video pass the basketball. Not a difficult task, but something that I bet we're going to come up with some answers that are different and that we might be surprised by. So I want you to really pay attention to how many times the people in white pass the basketball, and then we'll compare your answer to other people's answers and the right answer and see how close you are.
This is a test of selective attention. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count? The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla?
So I'm curious as to how many of you saw the gorilla out there. I've done this activity a couple of times, and before I had seen the video originally, I knew what it was about, and I'd seen the gorilla, so it was painfully obvious to me. And whenever I show this to people, it seems so obvious, but I've shown this to a number of different classes. The original study, by the way, almost exactly 50% of the people didn't see the video. It's been replicated in a number of different environments and situations, and pretty reliably, about half of the people don't see the video. And they haven't really been able to come up with distinct patterns about characteristics of people who do and don't see the video. And so this has been the knowledge that they've gained from this, that we really don't see things that are there if we're not expecting them and if we're paying attention to something else. It's been applied, for example, it's one of the things behind the law that we can't use cell phones while we drive. If we're paying attention to our cell phone, we may literally, even though it's in our field of perception, we may literally not attend to or perceive someone coming out across the crosswalk because we're not expecting it. We're not expecting a kid to run across the street, and we're involved in something else. Our attention is focused on something else. So that video is a very good example